congratulations, you've sold your home. You've signed a contract and you're wondering what happens next. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. What happens after you've signed your contract of purchase and sale to sell your home. So, several things we need to worry about. First of all, get your contract to your notary as soon as possible so that we can get the file started and get working on it. We want to take a look at the file as soon as we can, and preferably we have about 2 weeks from the day we get the file to the completion date. If you have other issues on the title to the property or issues with a deceased person on the title, we want to make sure we have more time so that we can deal with those issues if we need to. Next, we want you to know your finances. Now, in a perfect world, this is something you've done before you sign on the dotted line to sell your home, but a lot of folks don't get to it. So it's important that you are really clear about the finances that you're going to be dealing with for your property. So, for example, you know what you're going to get for the sale of the property, and you should know what you're going to be getting from or paying to your realtors for your commission amounts. You should know what your outstanding amounts are going to be that you have to pay for property taxes or utilities, the final payments for those pieces. You want to make sure you're aware of any prepayment penalties that you have to pay on your funding that you have on the title to the house, and your mover's costs and other sort of costs involved in the moving of yourself to your new place. If you have a line of credit on the title to your property, we want you to be careful that to be aware that you are probably going to be losing that line of credit when you close that mortgage out. Most banks will not let a line of credit continue on after you have sold the place. And so you want to be prepared that that's not going to be financing that's available to you after you move. Are you going to have enough money to pay all of those bills? And do you need that line of credit once you sell your home? Next, identification. We have to make sure, of course, that you are who you say you are. We don't want random people coming in and selling your house underneath you. So because of money laundering, because of fraud, the governing bodies, the banks, the governments are all now requiring us to be taking stricter measures about determining who you are. You used to be able to just come into the bank and say, or come into the notary's office and say, here's my ID. And that was great. That was it. But now we can't take that anymore. So we now have to have what's called a third-party identification system in place. So what that means is we send you a link and you go onto this third-party ID verification company's website. It's a secure website, so nobody's going to steal your ID. And you upload copies of your ID and you take a live selfie to show that it is you. And then they do a little bit of an investigation on you. They check your ID. Is it real? Is it current? Is it valid? Do we have any issues with you as a person? Does your name come up on any terrorist watch lists? Does it come up under any money laundering or fraudulent red flags? All of these things are super important for us to check in terms of making sure that you are who you say you are. Now, we have to clear the title to your property. So your job as the seller is to give clear title to the property, to the buyers. And so that means that we have to make sure that if there are any deceased people on the title, that we take their names off the title. And depending on how they're registered on the title, that could be a simple thing or a very not simple thing. So it's important to let us know right away that you've got a deceased person on the title that we have to organize and deal with. The next part is going to be, do you have any judgments or liens or certificates of pending litigation that we need to deal with? Are there any separations involved? Are we going to be using a power of attorney for the transaction at all? These are all things that are really, really, really important for us to be aware of before we get into the nitty-gritty on your file. Now, a huge thing that we need to deal with in a sale file is the residency of the sellers. The buyers have a legal obligation to make sure that you are not going to take the money and run out of the country. Because if you leave the country, the CRA can't find you. They don't know where you went. They don't have jurisdiction in other countries to make sure you pay your taxes on the way out the door. So the buyer, because they have the money in the first place, they have to make sure that you are not a non-resident of Canada. It's terrible language, but what it means is you are not triggering this non-residency label. Non-residency is complicated, and an accountant can help you figure out whether you are a resident or a non-resident of Canada if you're not sure. The basic idea for the most part for people is that you are calling a particular country home. So If you live in Canada all year round, yay, fantastic. You're probably going to say, I am not a non-resident. Again, that terrible language. But if you live out of the country, if you're gone for more than 6 months, or you tick off any one of these other many boxes that could turn you into a non-resident, then you have to really be careful about that, because that will trigger the requirement to hold back 50% of your purchase proceeds. You heard that right, 50% of your purchase proceeds. In some cases, that number can be lower, but that depends on a number of factors, and you shouldn't rely on it to be lower unless you're willing to go through a lot of hoops to prove why it should be lower. So, non-residency taxes are super important. You need to sort them out as soon as you can, and you should also be aware that the government has filing deadlines for the tax returns that you have to file when you are a non-resident. So you need to get your accountant on board as soon as you possibly can, because that stuff will bite you in the butt really easy and really fast. Next, arrange your movers. It sounds dumb, but make sure that you have everything decluttered, everything's cleaned up, everything's packed, everything's organized, so that when your movers show up, that they are going to be able to just show up, get in there, load the truck, and get the heck out. You do not want to be having your movers stand around and watch you pack. That is extremely expensive and a really serious waste of your money and time. So get yourself organized for your movers, be ready to go. If you have what we call a back-to-back deal, where you're selling one home and then using that money from the sale to buy another home on the same day, we really don't like these back-to-back deals. They become quite problematic sometimes, very stressful for everybody. But the idea is you've packed up all your stuff out of the place that you're selling, and for some reason, the folks that are buying from you haven't been able to do the deal properly. Maybe their financing didn't go through. Maybe they weren't able to get insurance on their place because there's a wildfire happening. Maybe the mom or dad that was going to give them money to help close the deal didn't. So now what? If you have been relying on the sale of your proceeds, sale of your house, the proceeds of the sale of your house, okay, that's fine. People do. You have to. But just be aware that if that deal, that sale goes long, you want to have a plan B around what to do with your stuff. Talk to your movers about what options they can give you if your sale goes long and you can't get into your new place that same day. So, can the stuff be held on a truck? Can it go into storage overnight or over a weekend? What options do you have if your sale doesn't happen and you need to be buying your place immediately, right away? So come up with a plan B for your movers. Next, be available. Don't sign your contract and then wander off to Hawaii or Mexico or wherever you're going to go, or move. If you can, please be available for us by phone, by email, in person. It's super difficult when clients just disappear on us and we can't work out things that need to be worked out. This is a moving, living thing, dealing with sales of property, and things change as we go through the process. So it's really important that you're around and you're available, and we can find you if we need to talk to you about something. Now, when it comes to completion date, your BC Notary is going to figure out and coordinate the whole completion date process for you. So we're going to make sure that you have reviewed your paperwork, that you've signed off on everything. We're going to do a video conference with you to go through all the paperwork and make sure you're comfortable with it. You'll come in to sign just a few pieces of paper that need to be signed in person, and then we'll make sure that the buyer gets their money together, you get your paperwork together, and we meet in the middle to exchange it. I jokingly call it a hostage exchange, so that they end up with the property and you end up with the money to the property at the end of the day. Keys will often transfer with the realtor if you've got a realtor. If you don't have a realtor, then you will transfer them according to the terms of your contract. It's super important that you understand that that old phrase, no money, no keys, is not a thing. You have a contract that dictates the possession date and the completion date. And these dates are actually rarely ever the same date. So it is very possible that the money, as it's moving from the buyers to the buyer's notary, from the buyer's notary to us as your notary, and then to you after we've paid everybody else out, that takes a little bit of time. It's not instantaneous. And so you may very well have to give up your keys for the possession date before you have the money in your hands. You are the last person to be paid out of this transaction, and you may have to give your keys before that happens. It doesn't mean the money's not available, not around, not coming. It just means they're not in your hands at that moment. So no money, no keys is not a thing anymore. Now, so the place is sold. You got your money. Yay, congratulations. You've moved on. Now what? There's a couple of things afterwards that we want you to make sure that you're thinking about. First of all, holdbacks. When you sell your place, we may have to hold back a little bit of money, either because you're a non-resident, because you have tax issues or tax bills that need to be paid, because we have to prove that your mortgage is fully paid out, we have to prove your utilities are all paid out. These are all reasons why we might be holding back a little bit of money from your sale proceeds in our trust account to prove that something is done. And we want you to follow up with us at a month or 2 months, whenever the time frame is that's necessary, to check and see, has the issue been resolved? Because sometimes it's something we have to do, sometimes it's something you have to do. So follow up with us about holdbacks in the trust account. Next, pretty much right away, we want you to be checking your bank to make sure that all of your auto debits have been properly canceled. Yes, your bank knows that the thing has been sold and your mortgage has been paid out, but it takes them a little bit to get their ducks in a row and make sure all of their record keeping is up to date. Yes, the Strata Council knows that you sold your place. Again, it might take a little bit of time for your call to the Strata management people or a private lender, private mortgage people, to be able to cancel off all of these accounts. So double check your bank for about a month afterwards, just to make sure that no surprise payments are coming out of your bank account. And the last piece that we want you to do, especially if you're a senior and you're selling your home to move into care, is to please, please, please don't give your money away. We know that families want to support each other. We know that moms particularly want to support their kids and share in the wealth, but it becomes very, very difficult when you give your money to a child, an adult child, who puts that money on their mortgage to pay down their mortgage. Their life becomes fantastic and wonderful and better, and they are very, very grateful, of course, for that gift. But what it does then is it makes it impossible for you to get that money back if you need it. The kid is not going to be able to pull that money back out and say, you need a new wheelchair, you need a new care home, you need a new set of very, very expensive hearing aids. I can fund that. So we really, really, really do not want you to just give away money because you sold your house. Talk to your financial planner, talk to your accountant about what you have available and what kinds of things that you might be able to gift if you do really, really want to. But please, please be careful about your financing to make sure that you are not putting yourself into poverty because you have given away too much of your money. So those are all the things that we want you to think about as you're selling your place. We look forward to working with you. If you have any questions, please give us a call. And congratulations.